Biafra, superstars, media.
My fellow Biafrans, I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. I want us to please listen to the no-claim case that was submitted by the legal team of Nnamdi Kanu. You will see where they came from, their perspective of why they said Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer. But unfortunately, we saw what happened in court, where James Omotosho, the judge, now came with a twist to say Nnamdi Kanu has a case to answer. And he also said he has no clue about the so-called extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu. This Nigeria for you, but please listen to this man, this great man, break down the case of Nnamdi Kanu when it comes to the no case submission. Listen.
Now, I think the very first one is, he said that the statement made by the witnesses, you know, the witnesses were actually covered because of security purposes. They were covered, only you know their names and you know their office, but you can't tell their face, you can't tell who they are. So they were covered. All the witnesses called by the prosecution, all the witnesses called by the federal government, none of them were able to answer a direct question. If you ask them a direct question upon how they obtained their evidence, they'll tell you either I don't know or I was not there. So what it means is that they tendered a statement without proper investigation. All the allegations, none of them were investigated. So this is one of the grounds upon which the no case submission was filed. There's also what we call probative value. Okay, any document you are tendering in a court of law, before that document must have a weight, you understand, to give you a win or a loss. It must have what we call probative value. Probative value is what we call weight. Does it have weight? Does it prove anything? Does it contain the substance of justice? Okay, if it does not contain any substance of justice, it lacks no probative value. So Agabi is also saying that all their evidence and all their witnesses lacks no probative value. Now, third, he said that no person was presented in the court who the federal government can say was incited by Nnamdi Kanu. No person, no name was mentioned. Not in the north, not in the south, nowhere in Nigeria did the federal government present somebody a physical living being who can say, I was incited by Nnamdi Kanu broadcast, by Nnamdi Kanu statement, or anything done by Nnamdi Kanu. So these are some of those ones. He went further to say that the prescription of the organization called IPOB, okay, you know, the Federal Ministry of Justice filed a gazette where IPOB was prescribed, okay, outlawing IPOB. That very gazette lacked presidential approval. The president never approved it. There should be a document approving IPOB. So he said that it was not approved, okay? Now, when you come to the other side, you find out that when they filed the first charge against Nnamdi Kanu, they also amended that charge and filed a subsequent one. That subsequent one upon which Nnamdi Kanu took his plea. You know when they, you know what it means taking a plea? Are you guilty or not guilty? Not guilty or guilty. That very charge was not filed before the honorable court, and they went ahead and predicated and based on their trial, based on a charge sheet that was not filed before the court. The lawyer for Nnamdi Kanu also went ahead to state that what Nnamdi Kanu did was to ask his people, the Southeasterners, the Igbos, to defend themselves because of the invasion of the Fulani headsmen and the terrorists. That was all he did. And he went ahead to play a video in court where the former head of state, the former head of state during the time of Gowon, you know when, no, not Gowon, there was this former head of state
T.Y.
asking Nigerians to defend themselves. And also the current police head was on air asking Nigerians to take up arms and defend themselves because of insecurity. So he also said that T.Y. Danjuma told Nigerians to defend themselves, and also the current IGP told Nigerians also to defend themselves. Last but not the least, they tendered NSAS report. You understand that it was Nnamdi Kanu that incited NSAS. But when they came to court, they were unable to link any activity of NSAS to Nnamdi Kanu. So the whole report of NSAS, which they tendered against Nnamdi Kanu, is so laughable. So these are the few points on that 13 points that Agabi listed that predicated him to file a no case a no case submission, because a no case submission simply means that this man has no case to answer.
Excellent analysis, by actually you've hammered on those points and greatly established. So let's look at special considerations in this.
Well said. You've just heard our brother there. A great guy who took their time to explain, the situation on ground. But unfortunately, sometimes you guys, you make the mistake of assuming that Nnamdi Kanu is actually going through a trial. If the reason why they held Nnamdi Kanu was to put him through a trial, by now, he'll be a free man. He'll be at home. But the fact is, something else is going on in Nigeria. When it comes to the Igbo man, when it comes to the Biafran, there's a different game being played. And most of you are missing it. Those that say they believe in Nigeria, the Biafrans that say they believe in Nigeria, you are missing the point. Because for the fact you all saw what transpired in the north, in Castina, terrorists came to a meeting to sign a so-called peace treaty with Nigeria. They were dressed in their full ragtag military attire. On their chest were cartridges filled with bullets, live ammunition. They had their guns, AK-47, and the rest of them with them, and they were discussing on live air. Governors were there to discuss with them. Politicians were there to discuss with them. Statesmen were there, brokering a peace deal with terrorists. You all saw what happened, and Nigerians who are saying Nnamdi Kanu is a terrorist should not be released. You saw the real terrorists in full flare, negotiating with Nigeria and warning the Nigerian military never to come to their camp. You all saw the real terrorists do what they did. But as usual, if they are not Biafrans, then it's okay. If they are from the north, then it is okay. Pretend not to see what you saw. Headsmen Boko Haram ISIS brokering a peace deal with Nigeria, with their military regalia dressed on. Your army was there. They saw them dressing, wearing the camouflage, and no, none of them were even touched or beaten for wearing, camouflage. But I know in Nigeria, if a civilian who thinks they are citizens of Nigeria, when they by mistake, knowingly or unknowingly, put on anything that looks like a camouflage or a khaki, even a naval colored shirt, khaki, if by mistake you put it on, you're in trouble. They will call you a bloody civilian. They will beat you black and blue. They will tell you to crawl on the floor. They will tell you to hold your ears and roll on the floor. They will beat you and lock you up. But terrorists have terrorists have more rights than the so-called Nigerian citizens. The terrorists, they are above the law. The law of the military beating citizens up for wearing the uniforms don't even apply to the terrorists. It means the terrorists in Nigeria have, in fact, they are stakeholders of high value. They are now critical stakeholders with more influence than those who say they believe in Nigeria. God bless Nigeria, that they are citizens of Nigeria. You all saw what you saw, terrorists dealing with Nigeria, and you all kept quiet. But till this day, most of you call Nnamdi Kanu a terrorist. Those are the words you used to describe Nnamdi Kanu. You say he deserves to be locked up for 15 years and throw away the keys. He will never, be scot-free. You call IPOB a terrorist organization. People that were speaking, advocating for their freedom. You called us a terrorist organization. As if you were really after the so-called terrorists. But when the real ones came out, when they showed up on your local TV, on your national TV, you guys said nothing. You were all quiet. There was total silence. The terrorists that you call bandits, those ones you call bandits, when they showed up, there was crickets everywhere. You could hear a mouse piece on cotton. That shows you what's happening to Nnamdi Kanu is different. What's happening to Simon Ekpa is different. And when the case has to do with the Biafrans, it is different. Even the thing you called war, the Biafran war, it was a genocide. And we all know this. But till this day, people say, no, it was the Biafran war. Blame the Biafrans. Blame Ojukwu. When we say that what the Nigerian army came to do was to decimate and kill, genocide, kill as much as possible. Send us into oblivion. There was the mission to kill the women and children. They didn't care if you were a civilian or not. You saw what happened in Asaba. They call it the Asaba massacre. You saw those things, but you guys don't care. You show no sympathy or empathy. You don't want to understand the plight of the Biafrans. At this point, let me play you a snippet of a video where one of the journalists in Britain was able to confess what he saw transpired in Biafra land. I believe his name is Frederick Forsyth. May God bless his soul. He's late now. Watch this video. Watch the confession of what happened during the Biafran war. And some of you may now start to understand that we are being persecuted. Nnamdi Kanu is going through persecution, not prosecution. The hate is real. The hate for the Igbos is real. The same way they hate the Jews today, the hate for the Biafrans are real. Watch this video from the confession of a journalist. And I hope you all will get a clearer picture of what is happening in Biafra land to Nnamdi Kanu and to Simon Ekpa. Watch this and I'll come back.
Mr. Forsyth, you claim that what's happening in Biafra is genocide and massacre on a very large scale. Yes. What evidence do you have for this?
It's mainly threefold. Partly my own eyewitness experiences. I followed the Biafran army very closely on a number of occasions. At one occasion, at Onitsha, I came across 300 members of the Apostolic Church at Onitsha slaughtered by the Federal 2nd Division.
Did you actually see these bodies?
Yes, I helped clear them out of the road. The Biafran army was so shocked they wouldn't march past them. It took us 18 hours to clear the bodies out of the way. And they had all had their hands tied behind their backs and been shot at close range. On another occasion...
Did you count these bodies?
Personally, one by one, no. The estimate was 300. I think it was probably a fairly fair estimate. They were piled as high as a man's shoulder, like logs stacked on the roadside. On another occasion, a man whom I know was a photographer working for the Biafrans took a photograph very shortly after a village had been completely wiped out. And you can see still the bodies lying around the market square where they were shot down. Secondly, from eyewitness sources, survivors of the massacres. And thirdly, from interrogations of federal prisoners who, when the Igbo captors have been sent out of the way, admit, quite frankly, that they are there to wipe out Igbo. That's what they admit.
But what do they say that their orders were?
They don't mention what their orders were. They don't seem to be taking any notice of orders anymore. They're taking frightful casualties, and in revenge for these casualties, they seem to be going on a blood rampage, which has nothing to do with what Lagos is saying about the rehabilitation of the Igbo and how they're all going to be treated as equal citizens of Nigeria. In other words, there is such a disparity between what Lagos is saying on the one hand and what the federal army is actually doing on the ground, that one has to come to the conclusion either Lagos is lying, and I don't think they are, I think they're quite sincere, or that the federal army of 80,000 brand new raw conscripts has gone out of control.
What about the bombing of Biafra? The federal government has claimed that they've only been attacking strategic targets.
Oh, this is absolute nonsense. They may have given orders for the attacking of strategic targets, but the pilots they're using are almost exclusively Egyptian. And I've examined too many sites of bombing raids to be of any other conclusion that, almost without exception, they go straight for civilian centers. Anything that's protected by even light machine guns, they stay well away from. They just go down on schools, hospitals, and the African townships and the markets, all of which, during the course of a working day, are crammed with women and children.
Women and children. Women and children. They came for women and children. Let that sink in. Nigeria went against the international humanitarian law. When they come for us, they come for everything. They came for our resources. They came for our land. Even today as we speak, look at our businesses being destroyed all across Nigeria. For the Biafrans who are still on the fence, for the Biafrans who are still dilly-dallying, you are not sure. You want to pretend everything is fine. You want to pretend that everything is just politics. You want to keep a blind eye to the reality staring you in your face. We have spoken. Nnamdi Kanu has spoken. Simon Ekpa came out to speak. And I brought to you the perspective of a media person. And today, you've heard from a British man himself that was there. An eyewitness account. You saw the way he described how people were tied. Is that peculiar? Where you tie their wrist and their elbow behind their back like a log of wood? Who is still doing it now? The members of the Islamic jihadists. That's their trademark. You go to Sudan, they do the same stuff. They tie you by your wrist and by your ankles or by your elbows. Your wrist and your elbow. It's a barbaric way of treating human beings. It cuts out the blood flow and you become weak. Not only that, they were shot on the head at close range. 300 civilians. 300 women and children. 300 vulnerable people. Civilians who were not fighting the war. That's Nigeria for you. The hate for the Biafrans is real. Hence, we are saying we are done with Nigeria. It is time for the Biafrans to go. We are tired. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired of seeing this blatant hatred for my people. Everywhere you look, the hate is real. You go to the north, it's the same thing. You go to the south, it's the same thing. Back then in 1967 or 66, they were killing us, destroying our business in the north. Today, 2025, they are still killing us and destroying our businesses in the west. It has not changed. The war has not ended. Rufai Yusuf said the war has not ended. I quote Rufai Yusuf the other day where he said the war, the Biafran war has not ended. That they all know that the war has not ended. And Nigeria don't fight fair. They don't fight fair. They come for the things we love the most. Our women and our children. Let us sink in. To the Biafrans who are still nonchalant. Today they are coming for Nnamdi Kanu and Simon Ekpa. Tomorrow, it might be you and there will be no one to fight for you. Today they are coming for the best of us. The men who have given their life to defend Biafra land. Today they are killing them and you guys, you are clapping your hands. Some of you went to Finland to blackmail Simon Ekpa, the only one who was speaking for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And now that you have helped Nigeria and falsely accusing Simon Ekpa and falsely getting him convicted in Finland, today Nnamdi Kanu looks helpless because there is no other person that can bend the hands of Nigeria the same way Simon Ekpa was doing. Simon Ekpa was the only one who could match his words with action for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. But you all allowed Nigeria to fool you. You all assumed that yes, the deal is for them to get Simon Ekpa and they'll release Nnamdi Kanu. So let's come together. Let us blackmail this Simon Ekpa. He's from Ebonyi State. We don't really care about him. Let's come together. Send the DOS, send the IPOB members as witness for Nigeria against Simon Ekpa. IPOB, your members from the DOS, they went to Finland to testify in a case of Nigeria against Simon Ekpa in Finland. It means IPOB and the DOS, they collaborated with the Nigerian government to get Simon Ekpa convicted. That was the only way Finland could do what they did. With the assumption, with the false hope that by doing so, then Nigeria will now release Nnamdi Kanu. Then Simon Ekpa will now be the one to blame. Most of you call Simon Ekpa a terrorist. Igbos, Biafrans did that. You assume, yes, let's put the blame on Simon Ekpa and Nigeria will release Nnamdi Kanu. Today they've proven to you that that's not the case. Nigeria played the old game where they said, if you have too many people around you ready to go to war with you, the ones on your left, pretend they are your friend, give them drinks and food to eat while they are enjoying and feasting. You deal with the ones on your right. And once you are done killing and destroying the ones on your right, you then turn to the ones on your left and decimate them all. You take them off. You take them out. That's what Nigeria has done. To you, Biafrans and Igbos who assume that, yes, let us call Simon Ekpa a terrorist. Let us tag Dr. Ngozi Orawarabe as a terrorist. Let's play the game. That way, Nigeria will now see us as a friend and release Nnamdi Kanu. To the politicians, let us proscribe IPOB, the Igbo politicians from the southeast. Let us proscribe IPOB. Once we do that, we now have this deal with the caliphate that they will make me president. They will make me a vice president. They will make me a minister. And they will not bring the EFCC against me. So let's come together and proscribe IPOB. They helped Nigeria to destroy their own. And today, the land of Biafra, before our eyes, is being destroyed by the Fulani jihadists that have integrated or reintegrated into the Nigerian army. And for the first time, you saw the real terrorist before your eyes in your media. Your Nigerian terrorists were holding a press conference. They ain't scared no more. They are now above the law. They are now critical stakeholders in Nigeria. They called a press conference and Nigerians listened to their terrorist. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. When the real terrorists came knocking on the door, Nigerians were palatable. They were happy. And there was no tension, no rigor, no rancor, no quest to get them killed. They said, no, we now have a new policy for the terrorists. It is called the cheese approach policy, where we pay them every month, we fund them, and we feed them and their people. This is what is happening in Nigeria. But till this day, to everyone in Nigeria, the Biafrans are the problem. Nnamdi Kanu is the problem. He should rot in jail. Kill him in jail. Simon Ekpa is the problem. Lock him up in Finland, and when he's done, bring him to Nigeria to reserve a new trial and sentence. This is how they see us. Because what's going on is a genocide in Biafra land. Nnamdi Kanu is being persecuted, not prosecuted. And Simon Ekpa was betrayed by his own for a deal that Nnamdi Kanu will be released. They did a deal with the devil. The Biafrans, they sold the prize to the devil. They've sold their soul to the devil called Nigeria, and the price was cheap. You assumed that by blackmailing Simon Ekpa, Nigeria will release Nnamdi Kanu. Now they've got all what they want. Now Nigeria has the playing card. Now the government of Nigeria has all the playing cards. They've got Simon Ekpa somewhere. They've secured him somewhere because now Finland can come to Lagos to enjoy the oil and gas that was piped from the creeks of Biafra land to Lagos State. They also got Nnamdi Kanu because right now nobody is there to speak again on his behalf. They ain't scared of no one. They know either all the men around him has been compromised. The DOS, we knew from the beginning, they were the ones that sold Nnamdi Kanu. Now the deal is done. Now they've got Simon Ekpa somewhere. The one who was like a stumbling block. The one who almost messed up the deal of shutting down the Biafra movement. But now they've succeeded. With the help of the DOS and the Igbo politicians, they have succeeded to convict Simon Ekpa in faraway Finland. Hence today, Nnamdi Kanu is going through all this, and nothing can be done about it. Your neighbors won't speak about it because they hate you with a passion. So to those who say they believe in Nigeria, to the Biafrans who still say God bless Nigeria, God bless your police and the rest of them, those that say Nigeria will be great, those that see their future in Nigeria, I present to you the reality. No more talk. For those that have ears, let them hear. For those that have ears, let them hear.
Yeah, Biafra, Biafra. Yeah, Superstar Media. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra. I wanna know. Tell me about Biafra. We going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra, Biafra. I wanna know. We're going back to the land. We're going back to the motherland. Biafra, Biafra. Tell me about Biafra. We're going back to the land. Tell me about Biafra. We're going back to the motherland. Tell me about Biafra, Biafra. Tell me about Biafra. We're going back to the land.